Q&A, and I'll do some more when I'm done. And thank you for coming early on a Sunday. Not everyone is like me and up at 6 in the morning like you were fired at a cannon. I know that this is actually not a virtue, it's a vice, so I appreciate you all making it. I'm going to read to you from a book that I'm working on under contract for tour at HarperCollins called Pirate Cinema. And Pirate Cinema is my third young adult novel, and it was inspired by a series of global legislative moves in copyright that I thought were really deadly. And the specific thing that had me upset is what's called a three-strikes law. Those of you from New Zealand will know that you've just had one accident and struck down, and now it's back up again. France has it, the UK has it, it's been proposed in the US, and it's the subject of a global treaty, so it's coming soon to a country near you. And the three-strikes rule says, more or less, if you're accused of multiple acts of copyright infringement, we cut off your internet access. So there's two really important words in that. The first is accused, and generally either no or very lightweight burden of proof. The entertainment industry argues that proving infringement is too hard, so they shouldn't have to. And then the second one is your internet access. It's very few of us have internet access. Most of us live in a house with internet access. And so when we cut off your internet access, we cut off your children's internet access, your spouse's internet access, maybe your parents' internet access, maybe your neighbor's internet access, or your flatmate's internet access. And it seems to me that in a world in which increasingly everything we do is conducted through the internet, whether it's politics or work or signing on for benefits or whatever, that taking away internet access is equivalent to sort of saying, well, you're accused of shoplifting a DVD. We are going to take away your rights to your right to a free press, your right to an education, your right to engage in civics, your right to free assembly, and so on. And the punishment, even if you acknowledge that this is a crime, the punishment doesn't fit it. So Pirate Cinema is a book about kids in the UK, mostly in northern post-industrial towns, who cost their family their internet access. And it's that kind of Mia Dickensian story. In shame, they moved to London to spare their family the burden of living with a downloader. And they started a street gang called the Jandy Dodgers, bent on the destruction of the entertainment industry before the entertainment industry can destroy Britain. And they do things like hand out SD cards with current release movies to people in the queue to see them in Leicester Square, with notes that say, if you buy a ticket, they'll just use it to put the money to pass a law that puts your children in jail. Watch the pirate edition instead. And then they mix their own movies and they show them in underground cinemas, in old sewers and civil defense tunnels and in graveyards and so on. So it's a fun book, and I'm about to read you a little of it. Yeah. Smash from today's headline. Here we go. Pirate Cinema. Prologue. A star finds true love. A knock at the door. A family ruined. On the road. Alone. Has the Dickensian. I will never forget the day that my family got cut off from the internet. I was hiding in my room, as I usually did after school let out, holed up with the laptop that I bought third hand and that I nursed to health with parts from here and there and a lot of cursing and sweat. But that day, my little lappy was humming along, and I was humming with it because I was about to take away Seth Watson's virginity. You know Seth Watson, of course. They'd been watching him on telly at the cinema since my mom was a girl, and he'd been dead for a year at that point, but dead or not, I was still going to take poor little Seth's virginity, and I was going to use Mona Lisa Fiore Oglethorpe to do it. You probably don't know that Seth and Mona Lisa did a love scene together, did you? It was over 50 years ago when they were both teen heartthrobs, and they were co-stars in a genuinely terrible straight-to-web movie called No Hope, about a pair of clean-cut youngsters who fall in love despite their class differences. It was a real weeper, and the supporting appearances in roles as dad, mom, best mate, pastor, teacher, etc. were so forgettable that they could be used as treatment for erasing traumatic memory. But Seth and Mona Lisa, they had chemistry. And truth be told, Mona Lisa had geography too, hills and valleys and such. They smoldered at each other the way that only teenagers can, all juicy with hormones and gagging to get their newly hairy bits into play. Adults like to pretend that sex is something that begins at 18, but Romeo and Juliet were like 13. Here's something else about Seth and Mona Lisa. They both used body doubles for other roles around then. Seth didn't want to get his knob out in a 3D production of Equus, while Mona Lisa was paranoid about the spots on her back and demanded a body double for her role in bikini trouble in Little Blackpool. These body doubles, Dan Cohen and Alana Denova, were in another movie, even dumber than Bikini Trouble, called Summer Heat. And in Summer Heat, they got the hairy bits into serious play. I've known about the no-hope Equus Bikini Trouble Summer Heat situation for like a year, and had always thought it would be fun to edit together a little creative virginity-losing scene between Seth and Mona Lisa, since they were both clearly yearning for it back then, and who knows, maybe they slipped away from their chaperones for a little hide the chipolata in one of the empty trailers. But what got me into motion was the accidental discovery that both Seth and Mona Lisa had done another job together 10 years earlier when they were 6. An advert for a birthday party service in which they chased each other around a suburban middle-class yard with squirt guns, faces covered in cake and ice cream. I found this lovely, lovely bit of video in a torn tracker out somewhere in Eastern Europe. Google Translate said it was written in Ukrainian, but it also couldn't get about half the words, so who knows. It was this bit of commercial toss that moved me to cut the scene. You see, now I had the missing ingredient, the thing that took my mashup from something trite and obvious to something genuinely moving. A flashback to happier, carefree times before all the hairy bits got hairy, before the smoldering began in earnest, etc., and so forth. The fact that the commercial footage was way, way down res from the other stuff actually made it better, because it looked like it came from an earlier era, a kind of home movie shaky cam feel that I bumped up with a video effects app that I found on yet another dodgy Eastern European site. I love those Eastern Europeans. So there I was in my broom closet of a bedroom, headphones screwed in tight against the barking dogs in the next door in the Albertsons flat, wrists aching from some truly epic mousing, homework alerts piling up around the edge of my screen when the knock came at the door. It was definitely a capital K knock. The kind of knock that they Foley in for police flicks with a lot of ominous reverb that cuts off sharply. Whang! 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 The thunder of authority on 2 legs. It even penetrated my headphones, shook all the way down to my galls with a premonition of something awful about to come. I slipped the headphones around my neck, hit the panic button key combo that put my lappy into paranoid lockdown, unmounting the encrypted disks and rebooting into a sanitized OS that had a bunch of plausible homework assignments and some innocent messages to my mates, all randomly generated. Then I crept out into the hallway and peeked around the corner as my mom answered the door. Can I help you? Mrs. Macaulay? Yes. I'm Lawrence Foxton, a community support officer here on the estate. I don't think we've met before, have we? Community support officer, a fake copper, a volunteer policeman who gets to lord his tiny, ridiculous crown of power over his neighbors, giving orders, enforcing curfews, dragging you off to the real cops for punishment if you refuse to obey him. I knew Larry Foxton because I'd escaped his clutches any number of times, scarpering from the deserted playground with my pals before he could catch up, puffing along under his anti-stab vest and laden belt filled with taser, pepper spray, and plastic handcuff straps. I don't think so, Mr. Foxton. Mom has a hard tone in her voice that she used when she thought me or Cora were playing her, a no-nonsense voice that demanded that you get to the point. Well, I'm sorry to have to meet you under these circumstances. I'm afraid that I'm here to notify you that your internet access is being terminated, effective. He made a show of looking at the faceplate of his police-issued ruggedized mobile. Now, your address has been used to breach copyright through several acts of illegal downloading. You have been notified of these acts on 2 separate occasions. The penalty for a third offense is a 1-year suspension of all network access. You have the right to an appeal. If you choose to appeal, you must present yourself at the magistrate's office in the next 48 hours. He tested a little thermal printer clipped to his belt, tore off the strip of paper, and handed it to her. Bring this. His tone grew even more official and phony. Do you understand and consent to this? He turned his chest to face Mom, ostentatiously putting her right in the path of the CCTVs in his hat brim and over his breast pocket. Mom sagged in the door frame and reached her hand out to steady herself. Her knees buckled the way they did so often, ever since she started getting her pains and had to quit her job. You're joking, she said. You can't be serious. Thank you, he said. Have a nice day. He turned on his heel and walked away, little clicking steps like a toy dog, receding into the distance as Mom stood in the doorway, holding the curl of thermal paper, legs shaking. And that was how we lost our internet.
Anthony, she called. Anthony, she called again. Dad pulled up in the bedroom, didn't say anything. Anthony, hold on, will you? The bloody phone's not working, and I'm going to get docked. She wobbled down the hall and flung open the bedroom door. Anthony, they shut off our internet. I ducked back into my room and cowered, contemplating the magnitude of the vat of shit I had just fallen into. My stupid, stupid obsession with a dead film star had just destroyed my family. I could hear them shouting through the thin wall. No words, just tones. Mom, nearly in tears. Dad, going from incomprehension to disbelief to murderous rage. Trent! It was like the scene in Man in the Cellar, a bowel-looseningly frightening slasher movie. Sex in the closet, and the murderer has just done incest's brother and escaped from the garage where they trapped him, and in howling in fury as he thunders down the hall, and Seth is in that closet, rasping breath and eyes so wide they're nearly all white, and the moment stretches like hot gum on pavement. Trent! The door to my room banged open so hard it sent a pile of books tumbling off my shelf. One of them bounced off my cheekbone, sending me reeling back, head cracking against the tiny, grimy window. I wrapped my head in my hands and pushed myself back into the corner. Dad's big hands grabbed me. He'd been a scrapper when he was my age, a legendary fighter well known to the Bradford coppers. In the years since he'd taken accent training and gotten his job working on the phone, he'd gotten a little fat and lost half a step, but in my mind's eye, I still only came up to his knee. He pulled my hands away from my face and pinned them at my sides and looked into my eyes. I thought he was angry, and he was, a little, but when I looked into those eyes, I saw that what I had mistaken for anger was really terror. He was even more scared than I was. Scared that without the net, his job was gone. Scared that without the net, Mom couldn't sign on every week to get her benefits. Without the net, my sister Cora wouldn't be able to do her schoolwork. Trent, he said, his chest heaving. Trent, what have you done? There were tears in his eyes. I tried to find the words. We all do it, I wanted to say. You do it, I wanted to say. I had to do it, I wanted to say. But what came out when I opened my mouth was nothing. Dad's hand tightened on my arms, and for a moment I was sure he was going to beat the hell out of me, really beat me, like you saw some of the other dads in the estate do. But then he let go of me and turned on his heel and stormed out of the flat. Mom stood in the door to my room, sagging hard against the door frame, eyes rimmed with red, mouth pulled down in sorrow and pain. I opened my mouth again, but again, no words came out. I was 16. I didn't have the words to explain why I downloaded and kept downloading, why making the movie that was in my head was such an all-consuming obsession. I read stories of the great directors, Hitchcock, Lucas, Smith, and how they worked their guts out, ruined their health, ruined their family life just to get the movie out of their head and onto the screen. In my mind, I was one of them, someone who had to get this bloody movie out of my skull, like I was filled with a holy fire and it would burn me up if I didn't get it somewhere. That had all seemed very noble and exciting and heroic, right up to the point that the fake copper came to our flat and took away my family's internet and ruined our lives. After that, it seemed like a stupid, childish, selfish